Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. A blonde man notices a cute little cat with green and blue eyes in a basket in front of him. He asks, "What is that lump?" A young boy holding the basket tells the man that the cat is Toby, an attendant of Paudia Temple, and that this cat is a sacred creature offered by their temple. However, the cat thinks that he is the only man in this world whose face she knows. He is the emperor of this empire, Klaus von Bismarck. Despite his beautiful appearance, he has a ruthless and cruel nature. He is a man whose name will heat even in the fire of hell. The cat thinks, why was she sent to him out of all the people? Klaus asks Toby if he knows how to read mistletoe omens. The cat thinks that she cannot do that because she is not really a sacred creature. She hopes that Toby does something, or they are both going to die like this. Suddenly, another young man appears, holds the cat in his hand, and asks who this is. He is Lucas Walter, the Prime Minister of this empire. The cat thinks that he seems important and wonders if he has fallen for her beauty. Even though she does not know who he is, she thinks that having another ally here is beneficial. The cat has been told that she is pretty since she was born, so she is hopeful that she will charm him to overcome this situation. However, Lucas says fetching the mistletoe branches is very troublesome and asks how about letting it divine with rune letters instead. The cat thinks this guy is just crazy as well. Lucas puts some symbol rocks on the table and asks Klaus what they should divine. How about today's lunch menu? If it cannot even guess such a trivial thing, it is useless, and he will feed it to the bears. The cat is scared as hell. She thanks Toby for taking care of her so well until now. Since it has come to this, if she is going to die anyway, she is not going to be scared of these jerks and then picks up a stone. As Lucas observes the stone, he tells Klaus that this cat has chosen beef. But Klaus looks at the cat with cold eyes and says that he did not eat beef for lunch. The cat cannot believe that she made a wrong choice. Klaus says that there is nothing more to see and orders to throw the cat in the bear enclosure. However, Lucas saves the cat and says even if Klaus did not eat it, roasted beef was definitely the main dish. The cat gets some hope that she might have guessed it right. Then he presses that he just wanted to entertain Sven, his bear. But giving such a tiny furball to him will not even be a snack. However, Lucas tells Toby that Klaus will remember the loyalty of the Paudia Temple and will be with the priest and the sacred creature forever. Toby says that he is deeply grateful and takes his leave. However, the cat says that he cannot leave her here alone. Klaus asks him what he is supposed to do with this lump if he leaves. The cat also cries and requests not to leave her here because these guys are completely insane. Klaus has appointed Toby as the royal caretaker of the sacred creature. However, the cat feels sorry for him, but is also relieved. Lucas picks up the cat and tells Klaus that it is an odd-eyed cat, and it is said that odd-eyed sacred creatures see their future with their green eye. Klaus looks curious and says let's see what it can do. However, the cat is still thinking she is not a sacred creature and cannot see the future. She is just a cat, actually a human turned into a cat. The cat is thinking about where it all went wrong. She was just an ordinary banker, and her name was Lim Marie. On a particularly exhausting day, she wondered if it was a mistake to stop by a bookstore to indulge in her hobby, or maybe not realizing that the imperial family was so heartless and cruel. She wondered if it was a huge mistake to buy that book just because the cover caught her eye. After a tragic bus incident, she thought she was dead. When she came to her senses, she had become the cat in that novel. She was born to the temple cat Katrina as her kitten and was offered to Klaus as soon as she was weaned. It is absurd enough to be incarnated into a novel she had only read 3 chapters of. 2 of those chapters were character descriptions. However, the title of the novel was Klaus and Cat. Even the character description had the cat right after Klaus, so she is an incredibly important cat. The last sentence she read before the accident was about how to transform into a human, so this cat might be a humanoid. That is her only hope now, the only way to end this precarious life as a cat that might get dragged to the bear enclosure at any moment. The problem is she did not get to read how. She thinks she has to roll forward and backward, then jump from the 3rd floor. Or maybe she just needs to eat something, but it cannot be helped. She just has to try everything. Later on, when she wakes up, it is already evening. She thinks, why is it that no matter how much a cat sleeps, it is always sleepy? She hears someone saying to Klaus that a pigeon has brought a letter. A hidden illegal child of the late emperor has appeared in a remote area of the Vich state. Klaus orders Lucas to deal with the illegal child and any accomplices as traitors. Lucas asks Klaus if he did not even see who they are, but Klaus says what good it would do to see them. Unless it is a sister they can send off to Marie Herzentin, he notices the cat on the floor who is pretending to be asleep and asks why she is here. Klaus says this sacred creature has no sense. The cat notices Klaus standing just beside her. She thinks if he is trying to kick her roughly, but Klaus sits next to her and asks if she wants to guess tonight's menu. Lucas picks the cat up and asks where the royal caretaker of the sacred creature is. Toby comes in and apologizes to Klaus. He tells him that he was sending a letter to the temple and briefly stepped away. Lucas asks him if the cat always stays in this audience room. Toby tells him it seems that the sacred creature keeps coming here, maybe because it is the first place it stayed or maybe because it is warm. The cat cannot understand what they are talking about. If she is not supposed to live here, but this is the warmest and nicest place. Lucas suggests that the chamber is also warm, so should they take it there? But Klaus says bringing an animal into the chamber is filthy. Klaus orders Toby to make sure this sacred creature does not enter his chamber or residence beyond this door. The cat is surprised and thinks that she thought he would kick her out, but fortunately, there is nowhere as warm as here in the entire palace. The next day, the cat is trying a human transformation step 17, which is doing a backward roll while eating broccoli. Toby notices the cat and says that she is really good at tricks. However, the cat is disappointed that it is another failure. She looks out of the window and notices that there are people outside today. Toby gets excited and tells the sacred creature that Princess Michaela is coming today, and she is incredibly beautiful. Michaela is the only sister of Klaus. She is also the Queen of Greyhin, their allied nation. The cat is thinking that she looks so young and wonders how old she was when she got married. Talking so casually about sending off such a cute little sister like that is truly heartless. Klaus warmly welcomes his sister, present and thinking if he can be like that. Michaela's husband is also with her, and his name is Argal. He says that he's honored to have Klaus's invitation. However, Klaus says that Michaela missed the weather here so much, and she sent numerous letters. Then Klaus brings the two inside the palace. Michaela is super excited to see the cat. She says that the only companions her brother keeps are bears and hunting dogs. Klaus tells her that it is a sacred creature sent by the Temple of Pavia. Lucas tells her that she has even guessed Klaus's lunch menu using rune divination. Michaela thinks that is amazing. She asks Toby how old the cat is. He tells her that she is about 2.5 months old. The queen cannot believe the cat's beauty and says how can it be so small and cute? Its fur is so soft, and its nose is so tiny. However, the cat is happy hearing all this and thinks she is quite the adorable one. She gives Michaela a little fan service by cutely stretching her body. Michaela is totally captivated by her charm and asks her brother if she can keep this cat. Klaus says that she can take it, but Lucas reminds him that the sacred creature of the temple cannot go outside of the empire. Michaela asks what this little cat's name is. Come to think of it, the cat also realizes that she does not have a name. Toby tells Michaela that they have been calling it the sacred creature. Michaela is upset that something this pretty does not have a name yet. She says the Harella royal family is heartless, just like their master. Klaus says a lump of meat destined to be fed to a black bear soon does not need a name, but Michaela warns him that he should not say such blasphemous things. The goddess Pavia will not forgive him. She says if Klaus will not name her, she will. She names the cat Marie. The cat is surprised that it is the same name as in her previous life. Michaela tells them that on her way, she met an oracle, and he told her that while heading south, she will meet a noble person named Marie. Michaela thought if it is south of Greyhin, it must be the Harella Palace. She thought that her brother had found the woman of his dreams. Since that is impossible, she will name the new family member Marie. Klaus says it is better to believe in the prophecies of the sacred cat than believing in what some wandering oracle says. However, Michaela asks Klaus if she can name it. Klaus tells her to do as she likes, but she still cannot trust her brother. She asks him to promise to protect Marie. Klaus carelessly says all right, but Michaela is not satisfied and asks Klaus to formally swear to protect the sacred creature named Marie. Klaus orders someone to bring his sword. He places his sword in front of his face and makes the promise to protect the sacred creature of the Temple of Pavia Marie. Along with Michaela, he says that under him, she will be saved from anything. The queen is happy and thanks Klaus. She also asks her husband if he heard that. Lucas secretly thinks that by making even the king of another country a witness, Michaela is one step ahead of Klaus. However, the cat is happy that finally she can say goodbye to the fear of the bear enclosure. But one day later at night, Marie is not feeling well. That morning, Toby tells Michaela that he wants to go to the temple. He is worried because there has been no response to his letters. He requests Michaela to stay with Marie in the meantime. Michaela says that she will take good care of her. Michaela seems to like Marie a lot and has not left her side since she arrived in Kayla. Hearing this, Toby feels relieved and leaves for the temple immediately. Michaela takes Marie to the royal dining table. Marie is happy to see all the amazing food and thinks there is such a variety that she can quickly find the food that will turn her into a human. She tries to take some fish, but Klaus asks Michaela to put her down. No matter how sacred she is, she cannot share their table. Michaela puts Marie down and says that she will share some of her food with her. Michaela keeps feeding the cat from under the table, but Klaus asks her to stop feeding her and says that he cannot tell if it is a cat or a pig. Marie is so upset to hear that and thinks if he thinks she is eating because she wants to. But the truth is she has no choice if she wants to become a human. A servant brings today's dessert, chef bread as chocolate. Michaela says it is her favorite and she missed it so much, even in her country. Marie thinks it was her favorite food as a human. Michaela asks Marie if she wants some chocolate as well and gives her a few pieces. Marie thinks this is the best chocolate she has ever had. Lucas just notices that she has given Marie chocolate and tells her that it is dangerous for cats to eat chocolate. Klaus asks Argel if his queen will break her promise after just one day, but Marie has already eaten all of the chocolate and she seems fine for now. Marie is also thinking that probably Lucas is overreacting, and after all, she is a human. What could happen from a few pieces of chocolate? Back to the present time, Marie has a sore stomach. She thinks that she is going to die like this. Suddenly, Klaus comes and asks who dares to sneak into his quarters. Then he notices that it is Marie. Marie vomits out the piece of chocolate. Michaela is upset and thinks that it is all her fault. She did not know that she cannot give chocolate to cats. Argel tries to comfort her and says that they have made her throw up everything she ate, so she will be fine soon. Marie is watching all this with her blurred vision and thinks that Lucas was right. Klaus is scolding the doctor and says if something happens to this sacred creature, he will not be saved either. Marie cannot believe that Klaus is getting angry to save her. Klaus clarifies that he swore to protect this sacred creature. Moreover, if something happens to her while the attendant is away, how could he face the temple? Marie gets up, and Lucas excitedly tells everyone that she is awake. Everyone runs to Marie except Klaus. After the doctor leaves, Klaus says that it is pathetic that a so-called sacred creature cannot even take care of its own life. However, Lucas says that asking Klaus for help when she was sick is pretty smart to him. Marie thinks that if she knew it was Klaus's room, she wouldn't have gone there. Klaus says until she recovers, he will allow her to stay in his quarters. The next morning, when she wakes up in Klaus's home, he asks if she must be thrilled. After that incident, Klaus just became a bit kinder. He even checked on her to see if she was all right. However, Marie thinks that the book calls him a tyrant and a bloody emperor, but maybe he is not really like that. Michaela comes into Klaus's room and angrily asks Klaus if he has imprisoned Toby. She asks Klaus what this is about and says that this is too much, imprisoning an attendant who just went to his temple. She says that she was the one who allowed him to leave, so Klaus should take her instead. However, Klaus says if she were not the Queen of Greyhin, he would have done so, and she should be quiet and leave. Just then, Lucas comes in and tells Michaela that there must be a reason for this. Lucas says that he actually did not want to send Toby back to the temple because he is now officially the royal caretaker of the sacred creature. Additionally, the temple has recently not been following the imperial orders, so he wanted to set an example. They needed a caretaker for Marie, so they used imprisonment as an excuse. Michaela says that Klaus should have told her if he had such a reason. Michaela requests Klaus to release Toby as soon as possible. She wants the caretaker to confirm that Marie is all right. After Michaela leaves, Klaus asks Marie if having no sister is a big blessing. However, Marie thinks that it is better to not have a brother like him. Later on, Toby is released, and Marie is happy to see him. Toby is almost crying and says that she has become so thin he should not have left her. Fortunately, he was released after just one day. Later on, Toby brings food for Marie and says that he asked Lydia to make salmon porridge for her. Marie is excited to see it because it has been so long since she had it. Since the chocolate incident, Michaela has only been giving her milk. Someone comes in and says that she likes it hot, so why cool it down, and asks Toby to just give it to her as it is. It is none other than Klaus. Marie wonders why he is an emperor when he could be a model. She cannot understand why he is staring at her like that. Klaus asks Toby to give him the porridge and tries to feed Marie, but it seems like the master does not know about the cat tongue. He continuously tries to feed Marie, but she seems to have an attitude. After all his efforts, Klaus says that it is his order to eat the food. Finally, Marie finishes the porridge, and Klaus says that he is glad she is eating well. However, Marie thinks that this guy will definitely kill her someday. Klaus tries to pet Marie, but he seems hesitant, so Toby shows Klaus how to gently touch her. However, Klaus says there is no point in touching a beast. Later that night, Toby sets a bed for Marie and says it is time to sleep. He is so glad that she is getting better. After a week she has fully recovered, but a new problem arises. Marie cannot sleep, and she really wants to hunt. However, her inner self is getting mad and trying to remind her that she is still a human and must not forget it. But Marie cannot stop herself when she sees a mouse. While hunting the mouse, she comes out of the palace. She cannot understand where she is now. She hears some noises. It's Toby presenting something when the princess is with him. For a woman, it causes either miscarriage or infertility, but it is not life-threatening. Either way, it is good for them. People behind the door are saying that it appears harmless on the surface, so it is perfect for avoiding suspicion of poisoning. Someone asks, "What about Lucas, who is always by his side?" But the other one says he will not eat it if it is sprinkled with nut powder since Lucas has a severe nut allergy. Marie thinks they are targeting Klaus and wonders who these madmen planning to kill the king are. The door is closed, so she cannot even see their faces. She thinks she needs to get to Klaus and runs away. When she reaches Klaus's quarters, she finds that he is sleeping soundly. Marie wonders why she is so worried about this guy, but they definitely mention poisoning. She will just take a quick look and leave. Klaus is sleeping peacefully and has no idea that someone is trying to kill him. Suddenly, Klaus wakes up and notices that Marie is on his bed. Marie thinks she needs to run, but instead Klaus carries her in his hands and asks if she is in pain somewhere. Marie shakes her head. Klaus asks Marie if she can understand what he is saying. However, he ignores that and puts the cat on the bed, then falls asleep once again. Marie cannot believe how an emperor can be so careless. She has no choice but to protect him as he swore to protect her. This concern is out of loyalty. The next morning, Michaela asks Marie if she slept well, but Marie does not come to her because this is not the right time for all this. She sits next to Klaus. Lucas laughs and says that they even shared a bed last night. How come they got so close so quickly? Klaus tries to explain that she came early in the morning and he did not turn her away because he was worried she might get sick again. Marie is very serious, but she finishes all her food. Of course, she needs energy to fight back the evil. Marie is now suspicious of everyone. She keeps a close eye on everyone who comes to the royal court. She is particularly wondering about someone who met Klaus yesterday. After taking a break from the royal court, Toby comes to Marie and asks if she is cold, but she shakes her head. Toby excitedly says that she is truly remarkable. Lady Katrina could not express herself so well. By the way, Katrina is Marie's mother. Klaus asks Toby if the sacred creatures often express themselves. Toby tells him sometimes they show what they like and dislike. Lucas says if this is true, they should ask Marie what she thinks of Lucas, if he is handsome or not. She takes a minute to look at him properly. He has a pleasant appearance, a smart mind, broad shoulders, and long legs. Of course, he is handsome, so she nods her head. Lucas gets happy and says, as expected of a sacred creature, she has a keen eye. However, Klaus is not very happy with this judgment and asks what is handsome about that pale face. He says it is because Lucas has not seen the sun. He is always locked up from morning till night doing Klaus's work. Anyway, Klaus says that this lump has no taste. Lucas also gets annoyed and says they should ask Marie which one of them is more handsome. He asks Marie to raise her right paw for Klaus and left for Lucas. Marie cannot believe they are being serious. She takes a moment to analyze both of their faces and then raises her right paw, because she only has one life, and secondly, it is true that Klaus is more handsome. Klaus feels extremely happy and orders to give Marie the finest grilled salmon tonight. The next day, when Marie wakes up, Klaus is already gone. Marie thinks he must be out hunting again. It has been quiet for days, and she wonders if the voice she heard that night was just a dream, but it was definitely real. The only hint about the poisoning is food with nuts, and there is too little to go on. She cannot just stand by and do nothing. For now, she will keep an eye on Michaela while Klaus is away. Michaela is having a nice tea time when guards inform her that the sacred creature is here. Michaela asks Marie how she got there and if Toby brought her. Toby says that he just followed her and ended up here. Michaela cannot believe that Marie has memorized the layout of the palace and starts kissing her. Meanwhile, someone interrupts their moment and says this must be the famous sacred cat. She is a young girl with red hair and asks Michaela if she can hold Marie. However, Marie is automatically on alert. Michaela says that this is her dear friend, Princess Emma Schmidt. She came to the capital from the Vish estate in the Schmidt territory to see her. Now Marie understands who she is and calms down. Emma is surprised and says that it seems like she understands what they are talking about. Michaela proudly says, of course, she is very smart. However, Emma asks Michaela if she has heard the news that the princess of the Elves Empire is gathering a huge amount of gold coins and jewels as a dowry for his majesty. They believe that after all their enmity toward their empire, now they want to Marie. They have caused so much struggle for Klaus' army and still have not learned. Marie wonders where Els is and if they have a bad relationship with Keela. Maybe that's why the threat was from there. Emma says that might be true, but a strategic alliance could be formed. Michaela does not say anything and just looks at her. Emma asks Michaela why she is looking at her like this. Michaela says it seems like Emma still has a crush on her brother. But Emma tries to brush it off and says it is just typical admiration that young girls have. Michaela says she is the only daughter of Duke Schmidt and is the closest to becoming an empress. Michaela says that she will arrange for her to sit next to His Majesty at the dinner. However, Marie thinks having a crush on Klaus is such a peculiar taste. But she is relieved that at least she will not try to poison him. A pretty and sweet girl like that, if she is with Klaus, they must suit each other. But thinking about it makes Marie uncomfortable, and she thinks that she might be hungry. Later on, at the dinner table, Emma is very nervous. She is wondering what if she makes a mistake in front of Klaus. Michaela advises her to just be herself. Klaus and Lucas arrive for dinner, but Lucas does not look very happy. He must have been dragged out for a morning hunt. Michaela welcomes them and thanks Klaus for allowing Lady Schmidt to join them today. Emma greets Klaus with respect. Michaela says that today's main dish is venison, taken from the deer Emma brought from Vitch. Klaus asks if that is all she has to say. If she is done talking, they should sit down because if Lucas stands any longer, he might collapse. Michaela makes Emma sit near Klaus. Klaus notices that Marie is sitting far away today, so he asks her to come closer. Michaela says she heard that Klaus caught a game today. Lucas tells them it is winter, so they only got 2 foxes. Michaela appreciates it and says catching 2 in this cold weather is impressive. She asks Emma if it is true, and she also acknowledges and says it is truly impressive. She also asks Klaus if, as winter deepens, he will move the royal court to Lula Palace near Vitch. The late emperor always moved there around this time. Klaus gets angry and says, "Since when does a mere lady comment on Klaus' residence?" Emma apologizes and says that Vichy is warmer and there are still plenty of game. However, Klaus does not accept her apology and says she overstepped. Lucas thinks talking about the late emperor in front of Klaus is not a good idea. However, Marie thinks she just invited him to the state and got scolded like that. She thinks Klaus has no manners. Suddenly, an old man comes with a serving tray and says that dessert is ready. It is a fancy drink poured into some silver wine glasses. Lucas refuses to drink it, and Marie is alert from that moment. She thinks, could it be the Chamberlain, the one from the voice she heard a few days ago? Moreover, the old man is very suspicious. Marie thinks that Klaus should not drink it. What should she do? If she scratches him, they will kill her, so she needs to think of another way. Just as Klaus is about to drink, she jumps and pushes the glass on the floor. Everyone is shocked. Michaela's glass is also spilled, and she tries to stand up hastily. Marie thinks it is a good thing that Michaela's drink is spilled too, so there are no more worries. Toby holds Marie in his hands and apologizes, saying that the sacred creature is still young and wanted to play a prank. He begs for mercy. However, Lucas says it is his fault for failing to properly manage the sacred creature, so he will punish him later for this. For now, he must confine himself to his quarters with the sacred creature. Marie feels guilty that she did not think about Toby. She tries to apologize. Back in his quarters, Toby asks Marie why she did that. They both will not be safe. Marie tries to apologize once again. Toby says that Lucas is right. It is his fault for failing to properly discipline her, so he will accept his punishment and leaves the room. Marie tries to call him back, scratching at the door, but there is no response. Suddenly, she hears the footsteps of someone coming. She wonders if Toby has come back safely, but it is the old man, the Chamberlain. He tries to catch Marie, but she dodges him easily. He gets frustrated and says if it was not for her, Klaus would have drunk that liquor. Now it is confirmed that the Chamberlain is the culprit. Marie realizes that Emma did not drink the milk and Lucas refused the milk because of his nut allergy. It would have naturally left just two of them drinking. The Chamberlain is a noble and Klaus's closest aide. She cannot understand why he does such things. The Chamberlain leaves the room and says he will make an excuse for His Majesty. He asks Marie if she realizes that because of her actions today, Toby was blamed and left without his belongings. He suggests that before she ends up like that boy, it would be best for her to run away. Marie cannot believe that Toby was driven out. He was just a kind boy trying to take care of her. How could everyone know and still easily kick him out like this? She does not believe the Chamberlain's words. She has to find out if Toby has really been kicked out. Marie thinks to clear Toby's name, she has to prove the Chamberlain is the culprit. She cannot testify as a cat, so what should she do? Klaus will just get angry if she goes to him. She needs to gather evidence, so she starts with the kitchen. It seems like no one is around here, but the light is on. Marie looks for anything that could be used as evidence, and she notices that a young girl is standing right above her. Marie wondered how she ended up here. The young girl recognized Marie and asked what brought her to such a hidden corner. Meanwhile, Marie was on alert mode. The young girl asked why she was looking at her like that, stating she wasn't suspicious. She introduced herself as Lydia, a new maid in the kitchen, running a secret errand for the Chamberlain. Nervous since it was her first important task, Lydia explained that with Marie here, she was excited to do her best. However, Marie thought the Chamberlain might be targeting Klaus and his sister with this secret errand. She found it suspicious and decided she needed to see what was going on. Lydia opened a sack of strange fruits. Marie noticed nuts and milk, with a suspicious fruit in the middle. She quickly understood they were planning another poisoning attempt. She couldn't stop it the same way as before. Marie thought there must be another way to intervene without endangering Lydia, as the Chamberlain would punish her if something went wrong. Marie accidentally knocked over the pestle and mortar Lydia was using to pound the fruits. Lydia didn't know what to do next, as the Chamberlain had stressed the importance of the task, and this was all she had. If he found out something went wrong, he would be furious. Marie thought it was fortunate that it spilled, but Lydia would still get scolded. She wondered how she could help and suggested using another fruit that looked similar enough that they wouldn't notice the difference. A blueberry-like fruit. Lydia was hesitant, saying they might notice if she used a different fruit, as the sacred creature was so small. Eventually, she managed to complete the task somehow and asked Marie to keep the day's events a secret between them. The next afternoon, a maid came asking if anyone had seen the sacred creature. She had been missing since the evening before, and they were searching for her. Marie was hiding in the kitchen and thought that if they were making such a big deal about finding her, they must still be angry with her. Feeling responsible for everyone's worry, she decided to come out of her hiding place. The maid recognized her and took her to see the Majesty and the princess, as they were desperately looking for her. When presented to Michaela, Marie was asked where she had been all night, covered in ashes. The maid explained she had been seen spending the night in the corner of the kitchen. Michaela realized the Chamberlain had been telling the truth. Without the sacred creature's caretaker, no one had paid attention to her. Marie shouted that Toby was innocent, blaming the Chamberlain instead. Klaus scolded her for raising her voice, unable to see how everyone had struggled because of her. He insisted she wasn't the sacred creature, but a troublemaker. Marie was disappointed, thinking she had tried to protect him. She wished she could speak. Klaus decided to let it slide this time, but warned her it must not happen again, emphasizing the importance of avoiding such mistakes in the future. Later that night, Marie sat alone on the stairs, feeling a mix of worry and confusion as she wondered what she should do next, since she couldn't clear Toby's name without speaking. Klaus, noticing her absence and sensing her distress, came looking for her, driven by a sense of responsibility and concern. Marie wondered why he was seeking her out when she hadn't caused trouble. Feeling a bit puzzled by his unexpected attention, Klaus reassured her with a calm and gentle demeanor, picked her up, and asked if she planned to make everyone worry again, his voice filled with a mix of concern and affection. He insisted she stay where they could see her, saying it was safest by the sun's side, a place where she could be protected and cared for. He hugged Marie tightly, and in that moment she realized Klaus had been worried about her as well. Klaus is having dinner with Michaela, Lucas, and Emma. He gave Marie a huge piece of unsalted cheese to eat. She advised her not to eat anything and get sick again. Marie is surprised at how all the food here is so melt-in-your-mouth delicious. Michaela says it is nice to see Klaus and Marie getting along so well. Klaus says it is just to prevent her from causing more chaos in the palace. Michaela asks Klaus what he will do about the position of the sacred creature's caretaker. Michaela says she will soon return to Greyhin, and he cannot keep Marie by his side forever. Klaus says that Lucas is looking into it, but they have not found anyone suitable because they cannot appoint anyone in haste. Michaela suggests, what about Emma? She is a noble lady with proper manners and education, so she can take care of Marie with great attention and teach her as well. She has also met Marie a few times, so they should be comfortable with each other. However, Marie thinks she is not very comfortable and would rather be alone. Emma asks Klaus if she can. Klaus says it seems suitable to him, but Marie thinks if it is not Toby, she does not want anyone. Michaela cannot believe it and asks if he is really allowing it. Lucas says nothing is better than seeing the kitty comfortable. Michaela says to Emma that she trusts her to take care of Marie. Emma also affirms that she will do her best to take care of the sacred creature. Klaus says since the meal is over, he orders to bring the dessert, and once again, the Chamberlain has served the milk liqueur. Marie hopes that it is the one Lydia made. Klaus drinks the whole glass, and nothing happens. Later at night, the cat is sleeping with Klaus, but she is feeling uneasy. Klaus seems fine, but the Chamberlain even comes to check on the room. If he realizes that the liquor is not poisoned, he would harm Lydia, so Marie gets up and decides to check on her because she is worried. Marie wonders if she is in the kitchen today. On her way, Marie hears some voices and follows them. The Chamberlain is scolding Lydia, but she says that she followed the recipe he provided. The Chamberlain gets frustrated and orders Lydia to make this recipe again and says that he will pay her extra to keep her mouth shut and gives her a bag of those suspicious fruits. He says if she fails again, she will be thrown out of the castle and lose her mother. She has no other choice but to follow his orders. As she is about to pick up the gold coin, Marie comes to her and touches her hand as if she is trying to ask Lydia if she is okay. Lydia picks Marie up and puts her in her lap and asks what she should do. Lydia comes to her room and she is crying continuously. However, Marie thinks that she tried to handle it alone, but is back to square one. If she acts without thinking, Lydia will be in danger, and the Chamberlain will get away scot-free. She needs a fundamental solution. Dashak says to Marie that he must be angry because she did not complete the task properly. He emphasizes that it is important, and she messed it up. But when the Chamberlain said that, she seemed quite resilient. What did he mean by that? She asks Marie if she should do as he says. She is afraid something will go wrong because of this, but then she thinks about what the Chamberlain said. If she fails again, she will be thrown out of the castle and lose her mother. So she decides that she will make it and think about it later. But Marie picks up the sack of poisoned fruit and takes it with her. Lydia tries to follow her and asks Marie to give it back. If she doesn't have it, he is going to be in big trouble. But Marie runs away, thinking that she took the drink's main ingredient. Who can she ask for help? If she takes it straight to Klaus, Lydia will be in trouble. Then she thinks about Lucas. He handles many tasks Klaus assigns. Someone like that would not be involved with the Chamberlain, and he is still working in his office at night. He is surprised to see Marie there. She is confident that Lucas can handle this if she gives him the sack of fruits. Lucas gets happy and thinks that she brought them for him to eat. But Marie tries to explain that it is not it, and that this is not a joke. So Lucas comes up with a solution and asks Marie to put her paw on his hand if he is right. He starts investigating and asks Marie if this is related to the action she has taken recently. Marie confirms that it is right. The next question Lucas asks is if no one should eat this fruit. Marie also confirms this by putting her paw on his hand. Lucas keeps the fruit in his pocket and says that he will investigate it later and appreciates Marie for bringing it here. Marie is glad that Lucas understands and hopes to resolve it quickly without anyone getting hurt. Then she goes back to the bedroom. She thinks that it is taking longer than expected and just hopes Klaus does not get angry as she climbs up the bed. The cat is happy that he is sleeping soundly but just tells Klaus the same. He told her not to wander too far and said that she took Klaus' order too lightly. Marie tries to explain herself, but Klaus is not in the mood to listen. Marie cannot believe that he is sulking because she did not listen. The next morning, when Klaus is working in his room, Michaela comes in and asks if she can have a moment. Klaus allows her to come in and asks if she is ready to leave. She says yes, but asks why he packs so much for her. It will not fit in the carriage, and Argyll will be surprised to see all this. But Klaus says that it is the reduced amount. He asks Michaela if her husband has arrived safely because he left in a hurry. Michaela says yes, and that he is waiting for her. so Klaus asks what the real reason she is here is. Michaela says that she has brought a gift for Marie, a cute little cardigan. She shows it to Marie and asks if she likes it. But when she notices Marie, she gets worried and asks if she is not feeling well and why she looks like that. Klaus tries to explain that maybe she did not sleep well. However, Marie thinks that she did not sleep a wink trying to calm him down. She does not even have the energy to be angry. Michaela says it seems that Marie had a tiring night. A voice says indeed, what could a tiny creature be up to all night? Later at night, Marie comes to see Lydia because she was worried about her after she left like that yesterday. She is wondering if taking the fruit made her lose her mind. She was just trying to help. However, Lydia says that after she suddenly left yesterday, the Chamberlain came and surprised her. He told her to handle the fruit and even gave her a gold coin as a reward for her hard work. Lydia says that she thought she got involved in something bad, but it turned out fine. However, Marie is wondering if he has stopped poisoning. Why did he suddenly stop the plan? She cannot understand that. Marie is still wondering what his real plan is. Stopping the plan just as Michaela is leading makes her wonder if Michaela was the original target, or if Lucas already resolved the issue. She does not know who the target was or why it started. At least it seems like they can breathe easy for now. She will finally be able to sleep peacefully for a while. A few days later, in front of the palace, Michaela is ready to leave. She hugs Marie and advises her to stay healthy and asks Emma to take good care of her. She says goodbye to her brother, and after her carriage leaves, Klaus orders to let go of the meeting now. However, he is thinking that even if she lacks knowledge, she will dedicate herself to the task that was given to her. Klaus pets Marie and says he will be back soon, so she must behave herself while he is gone. However, Marie is sad and wonders when she will get to see Michaela again. She is also worried if Toby is doing well. As soon as they enter the palace, Emma gives Marie to the servant and asks why Klaus smiles at that. She orders 2 of the maids to take care of Marie from now on. It will be an important link between her and Klaus. 2 days after Michaela left, Emma is enjoying a great tea time while the servants are trying to keep Marie happy. Emma notices that Marie is not eating her snacks today. She says to the servant that pleasing Marie is not easy, but she must know that if anything goes wrong, she will not be saved either. However, Marie is thinking it seems harder to please Emma than to please her. As soon as she hears that Klaus has come back from the hunt, she picks up Marie and says, "Let's go to greet His Majesty." Emma's actions after that were even more shocking, using Marie as an excuse to walk beside Klaus and trying to play with Marie in front of him. Klaus firmly believes that Emma demonstrates a remarkable ability to handle the sacred creature, exhibiting a natural affinity that impresses him. Lucas concurs, noting that the sacred creature appears exceptionally content in Emma's presence. In stark contrast, Marie holds a completely different opinion. She perceives Emma's interaction with the creature as nothing more than a calculated attempt to win Klaus's favor. Marie feels that Emma shows no genuine happiness with the creature and views it merely as a tool for manipulation. As soon as Klaus leaves, Emma immediately hands the creature back to the servant, expressing her relief at being rid of it. She confides that she only keeps the creature to please His Majesty and feels an urgent need to wash herself afterward. Marie, observing this, suspects that Emma harbors no real affection for the creature and contemplates whether she should have pleaded with Michaela to bring back Toby instead. This stark contrast in their perceptions underscores the complexities and tensions underlying their relationships. After Emma washes up, the maids attend to her hair while she leisurely sips wine, savoring a rare moment of relaxation. Suddenly, a guard arrives to retrieve the sacred creature, explaining that His Majesty prefers to sleep with it. Emma seizes this opportunity to present herself in a new light to Klaus. She asks the guard to wait and declares that she will personally deliver the creature to His Majesty tonight. Upon reaching Klaus's bedroom, the guard announces Emma's arrival with the sacred creature. Klaus, engrossed in his work, allows them to enter without looking up, instructing Emma to leave the creature and depart. Emma tries to engage him in conversation, commenting on his late-night workload and suggesting that having a consort to care for him during such times would be beneficial. Klaus responds coldly, questioning her audacity in offering him advice. Disheartened, Emma takes her leave. Klaus then states that he has never permitted women in his bedroom and instructs Marie to come alone next time, noting the late hour and suggesting they both get some rest. Marie wonders if Klaus's aversion to women would persist if she became human and ponders whether he would still want her around if she transformed into a woman. A few days later, while strolling in Klaus's garden, a young girl inquires of Emma whether she has been seeing His Majesty often and asks how he is. questioning if he is as cold as rumored. Despite recalling their last encounter, Emma lies without hesitation, asserting that he is always kind to her and suggesting that the rumors are unfounded. Later, Lydia arrives with a basket of fish, and Emma notices Lydia making eye contact with Marie. Furious, she calls Lydia over and reprimands her sharply, saying, "How dare you make eye contact with the sacred creature?" Lydia kneels down in front of them and asks for apologies. She says that it was thoughtless of her. The sacred creature is so beautiful that she could not help it. Emma says since she is kneeling and apologizing, she will let it slide this time. But does fish smell this bad even when it is frozen? Then she asks the bunch of noble ladies she has invited to come along. However, Marie is thinking that taking out her frustration on a child because she is in a bad mood makes her a horrible person. Marie wishes she could speak. She feels sorry that she cannot help Lydia. Inside the grand and ornate palace, Emma and all her companions formally greet Klaus with a sense of reverence. Marie comes running toward Klaus with urgency. Klaus, noticing her haste, inquires what the matter is. Emma, attempting to defuse the situation, claims that it appears the sacred creature desires to remain by His Majesty's side. She calls out to Marie, but Marie, feeling betrayed, refuses to respond, perceiving Emma as a deceitful person. In an attempt to retrieve her, Emma grabs Marie, but in the struggle, Marie's paw inadvertently injures her. Witnessing this, a maid rushes over to assist. Klaus immediately orders the maid to take Emma to the doctor to have her injuries thoroughly examined. Klaus comments that there is never a dull moment when Emma is present and instructs her to apologize to the lady involved. Due to an imminent meeting, Klaus entrusts the chamberlain with the care of the sacred creature and the responsibility of checking on Emma's condition. The chamberlain, following his orders, visits Emma. He inquires about her well-being, and Emma reassures him that it is merely a scratch and should not leave any lasting scars. The chamberlain informs her that he was directed to bring Marie to her, but points out that this incident has successfully captured Klaus's attention. He emphasizes the significance of Emma's role, stressing that she must win Klaus's heart and ascend to the position of empress to strengthen their family's influence. Marie, now more aware of the situation, realizes that both Emma and the chamberlain are relatives, and that their intervention in the poisoning plot was not just due to Michaela's departure, but also because they saw an opportunity to exploit Emma's connection with the inner circle of the family. Emma acknowledges that achieving their goal will require her to use Marie, despite the challenges. The chamberlain advises her to coax the sacred creature gently. However, as Emma attempts to hold Marie, the cat bites the chamberlain and escapes. The chamberlain warns that losing the sacred creature would result in significant trouble for them. But now Marie understands everything. It was all the chamberlain's plan to seize power. The conniving chamberlain informs the guards that the sacred creature has escaped and orders that everyone should search for her. Marie is convinced they are already chasing her, so she has to hide immediately. She finds a hiding place inside a nearby carriage. Marie is in shock and cannot believe that they are trying to make Emma empress for their own gain. However, she recalls Emma saying that she likes Klaus. Marie wonders if it could all have been an elaborate act and questions if all her feelings for Klaus are a lie too. She realizes she needs to tell Klaus about this, but how can she do that? She cannot even speak, let alone transform into a human. Marie worries if someone else might get hurt because of her situation. She thinks that there is no time to hesitate, and she decides resolutely that she is going to find Klaus. As she tries to emerge from the carriage, she notices that she is far away from the palace and thinks to herself that this is a very bad situation. The carriage enters the city. With the realization that she must return to the palace as quickly as possible, Marie exits the carriage and walks back to the palace. She wanders aimlessly through the streets, pondering whether or not she will be able to find the way she needs to go if she continues in this direction. Her ability to navigate is hindered, however, by the smells that she is not familiar with. She reminds herself to maintain her concentration. Instantaneously, a group of children on the street pick her up, curious about whether or not she is a rabbit. They believe that she is a fair-haired rabbit dressed in pretty clothes. A child wants to know if they are allowed to consume it. When Marie arrives at their house, the children put her in a cage and lock her up. According to their father, the animal in question is not a rabbit, but rather a cat. Considering the high value of the garments, the father believes that they must have been worn by a significant individual. He makes a suggestion to his wife that they should put it on display in their shop and see if the proprietor comes looking for it so that they can ask him about it. In agreement with him is the wife. Despite this, they end up feeling dissatisfied. At the end of 3 days, Marie is still not found by anyone. After heaving a sigh, she asserted that they were correct in their warning, which stated, "You will suffer if you leave the house." While this is going on, there are a few individuals in the shop who are discussing the fact that the sacred creature has vanished from the palace, which has caused a commotion. According to them, it vanished while the caretaker was not paying attention, and now there will be consequences for its disappearance. A man who was standing in the shop makes a remark that the sacred creature undoubtedly possesses a high value. The woman who is sharing the news mentions that she was told by someone that it has white fur and eyes of varying colors, which give it an appearance that is mystical. Just at that moment, they notice Marie in the cage, who appears to be an exact replica of the creature that was described. The idea that this cat could be the sacred creature is initially considered by them, but they quickly dismiss it because they believe that a sacred creature would not be found in a location such as this. The clients eventually leave. Later on that night, when all of the members of the family are sleeping, Marie makes an attempt to escape, but the cage is locked and she is unable to discover how to unlock it. She makes a mental note of how diligently they are looking for her, and how the news has even made its way outside the realm of the palace. She has come to the conclusion that she must return to them and let them know what is going on. The poor cat cries, feeling almost hopeless, and contemplates the reasons why she never seems to be able to get anything right in her life. She is sorry that she did not choose a more suitable location to hide, or that she did not stay with Emma before discovering Klaus. Because she was so preoccupied with the fact that Klaus was in danger, she made the situation even more precarious. When the father returns the following day, he places Marie once more on the front counter of the shop. Additionally, he assures her that she will locate her owner today. Exactly at that moment, an unanticipated client shows up. As far as she is concerned, she came to purchase some herring. It is mentioned by the father that he has heard that she works at the palace, and he inquires as to whether or not they have still not located the sacred creature. The palace guards have been seen searching the streets for it, according to him. Due to the fact that they have not discovered it within the palace, Klaus has also ordered a search to be conducted outside. According to the father, this is a serious matter, and they had better locate her ASAP. When Marie looks at the customer, she realizes that it is none other than Lydia. After paying for the herring, Lydia asks Marie, "What are you doing here?" Before picking her up and leaving her, "All of the people who work at the palace are looking for you." In order to inform the father that this is the sacred creature, she brings Marie out of the room. In order to return to the palace, Lydia takes Marie. As they get closer and closer to the palace, Marie begins to believe that she is finally under protection. First, Lucas takes notice of Lydia and inquires about what is going on. After that, he recognizes Marie. Lucas asked Lydia who she was and if she was trying to steal the sacred creature. The next thing he did was ask Lydia to explain what had taken place. After listening to everything that Lydia had to say, Lucas asked Marie, how did she end up here? Lydia went into great detail about how she had initially located Marie. However, the fact that you have returned is a relief, because Lucas did not want there to be any confusion about whether or not she had taken Marie. He asked Lydia her name and asked her to leave Marie with him. He also requested that she return immediately. After stating that she came to an understanding, Lydia handed Marie over to Lucas and then departed. During this time, Lucas informed Marie that they ought to depart immediately because His Majesty was waiting for them. After that, he led Marie to Klaus's room, and as soon as he walked in, he observed that it was a complete mess, with Klaus standing in front of the window. Klaus was informed by Lucas that he had located Marie, and that, fortunately, she was in good body condition. While Klaus was holding Marie in his hands, Lucas believed that Klaus appeared to be exhausted and must have been experiencing a great deal of anxiety. After announcing that he would put Emma, the person responsible for the sacred creature, on trial, Klaus also issued an order for the execution of all of the protection personnel. However, Lucas stated that this would be extremely extreme. It was explained by Klaus that the caretaker had failed to fulfill her responsibilities, and that the guards had disobeyed the order to locate the sacred creature. Therefore, how could it be considered excessive? Klaus stated that the delivery of the sentence would take place the following morning. Lucas, on the other hand, requested that he reconsider his decision. However, Klaus were adamant in his refusal, stating it is a royal command. If he requires further explanation, in light of the fact that Lucas was unable to utter any further words, Klaus informed him that he could depart if he was finished speaking. After leaving the room, Lucas informed him that he would speak with him the following day. Klaus experienced a fall to the ground when he was the only person left in the room, along with Marie. Marie pondered, What exactly is the matter with him? Could he be ill? During this time, Klaus inquired of Marie whether she had such a strong aversion to the palace that she had fled. An attempt was made by Marie to explain that it was not because she detested it. She left on her own, according to the caretaker and the chamberlain, according to Klaus, who told Marie about it. Marie was questioned by Klaus about whether or not she was aware of the reason why he was referred to as the son of Kayla. In the distant past, numerous principalities and lords engaged in conflict with one another in order to acquire control of Kayla. He fought to protect Kayla, destroying anything that stood in his way without showing any mercy. He was victorious. At some point in time, the war came to an end, and he became the ruler who ensured that everyone remained at peace. He was lauded as the sun that shines on Kayla as a result of this because of his actions. It was necessary for him to lose a great deal, including everything that he considered to be his. Despite the fact that he did not want to lose anything anymore, he continued to be an unstoppable sun that no one could touch. It was then that he reached out and touched Marie's face, telling her that she must never again be absent from his side. After that, he dozed off on the ground by himself. Marie was under the impression that Klaus was terrified, which was the reason he initially acted so distant. He attempted to isolate himself out of fear that he would cause harm to other people as a result of his actions. While she was sitting close to Klaus, she expressed her regret and promised that she would never again abandon him. In the royal court the following day, Lucas revealed to Klaus the names of the 100 individuals who were required to be put to death. However, he went on to say that because there were so many courageous young men who were going to be put to death, there would only be 2 executioners left. Klaus questioned Lucas about the specifics of what he was attempting to imply. The execution of 100 men at the same time, according to Lucas, would result in problems with the security in the capital, so it would be preferable to simply behead the guard captain and hang his head on the drawbridge. This would serve as a message to the guards that they should act in accordance with his wishes. After that, Lucas handed Klaus the document that contained the name of the guard captain. When Klaus read the document, he became enraged because it stated that the guard captain, Lucas, would be put to death. Lucas got down on his knees in front of Klaus and explained that he was the one who issued the orders to the guards until Marie was located, and that he was responsible for everything that had happened. So he asked Klaus to put an end to this situation with him by himself. In response to Lucas's question, Klaus asked, "Does he think Emperor's orders are a joke?" After that, he pulled out his sword and pointed it at Lucas, asking him if he believed that he would not carry out the plan simply because he had asked him to in the first place. Marie leaped forward and pushed his hand just as he was about to launch an assault. Marie was instructed by Klaus to move aside, but she did not do so because she perceived Klaus to be more knowledgeable than anyone else regarding the fact that Lucas is not at fault. Klaus inquired of Marie even if she believed that he was the source of the issue. After dropping his sword and stating that everything would be resolved if he vanished, he exited the courtroom and left the room. After asking Marie if she was attempting to shield him from harm, Lucas expressed his gratitude to her. In addition, he cautioned her that she should not engage in such behavior again because it was both reckless and dangerous. After that, he requested that she visit him in his chambers later that evening. Marie was curious about the topic that he wanted to discuss. The following evening, Marie went to Lucas's room to talk to him. He was overjoyed to see her and informed her that His Majesty had ordered a hearing rather than an execution for the knights, and that this must be due to the blessing of the goddess Pavia. Lucas was happy to see her. Then he pulled a small box out of his drawer and inquired of Marie whether or not she recalled the fruit that was contained within it. Marie was able to identify it. It was the particular fruit that she had brought earlier. Lucas informed her that it was referred to as escaron, which is a fruit that has a low level of toxicity when consumed once, but when consumed for an extended period of time, it can be fatal, particularly for men. When it comes to inducing miscarriages, it is even more dangerous, as it is both expensive and difficult to locate. It is frequently used by high-ranking nobles. Having it in the palace is not appropriate. Marie was informed by Lucas that he had called her because he required her assistance. It was necessary for them to discover the origin of this fruit, so they approached Marie and asked her if she could confirm where she had obtained it. Marie was under the impression that the chamberlain was the one who was responsible for this fruit. However, Lydia was the one who used it to make milk wine. She pondered whether Lydia would be the one to shoulder all of the responsibility. Even if she made an effort to explain everything that was going on here, she questioned whether or not Lucas would be able to comprehend everything. Lucas inquired of Marie whether she was concerned that an innocent person might be harmed, similar to what had happened with the previous caretaker. Lucas, in his capacity as Prime Minister of Keela, made a commitment to do everything in his power to guarantee that no innocent people would suffer any harm. Marie was under the impression that she could rely on him, so she made the decision to reveal to Lucas where she had obtained it. Following Marie, Lucas was taken to the servant quarters where the guards were removing Lydia from her room. Marie then took Lucas to the servant quarters. At this late hour, Lucas inquired of the security personnel as to what was taking place, as a result of the guards informing him that Lady Emma had reported this child's suspicious behavior on the day that the sacred creature went missing, and that she might attempt to escape. His Majesty ordered that she be detained. It was ordered that they bring her to the prison that was located underground. Marie requested that Lucas accompany the guards to the underground prison that was a secret hidden from the public and where Lydia was being held captive. As Lydia emerged from her cell, she was taken aback to see Lucas and the sacred creature both present. Lydia was taken aback when she happened to see the holy creature. Marie was queried by Lucas about the reason she had brought him to this girl. Marie attempted to provide an explanation by performing a series of random flips. Lucas then inquired of Lydia whether or not she had recalled him. The response that Lydia gave was, "Yes, Prime Minister." Lucas inquired as to whether or not she came across this fruit. Astonished, Lydia inquired of Lucas how he had obtained it. She was informed by Lucas that Marie had presented it to him and appeared to have something very important to convey to him. As Lydia reflected on the past, she pondered whether or not it was connected to the period of time when she was preparing the milk wine. She began to feel concerned, as she was under the impression that she had placed her faith in the holy creature. Therefore, why had Marie given the fruit to the Prime Minister? Lydia feared that she might actually be in a very serious situation. Lydia was solicited by Lucas to divulge all of her information to him. Marie expressed her hope that Lydia would be honest and reassured her that there was no reason for her to be concerned during this time. Lydia, on the other hand, believed that if she had actually done something wrong, she needed to make amends for it. Simply put, she wished that it wasn't too late. After that, Lydia told Lucas everything that had transpired in the previous moments. In addition to providing her with the money and the fruit, she admitted that the Chamberlain had also given her the instruction to prepare the milk wine. In addition, she related to Lucas how Marie had prevented her from preparing it in the kitchen and how, all of a sudden, the Chamberlain had instructed her to get rid of the fruit instead. Lydia was asked by Lucas if she could recall the precise time that this event took place. He was informed by Lydia that the day had arrived for the appointment of the new caretaker of sacred creatures. Following that, Lucas inquired about Lady Emma's report to Lydia. On the day that Marie went missing, he inquired as to whether or not anything had occurred. Lydia shared with him that she had greeted Marie with a nod while they were out for a walk, and that Emma had spoken to her in a harsh manner. They were both walking with the sacred creature. That Lady Emma would behave in such a manner, claiming that she was not carrying out her responsibilities as the caretaker and that she was picking fights with a servant, was something that Lucas could not believe. Lydia then inquired of Lucas whether or not she was going to be punished by the goddess Paudia for her actions. She was under the impression that if she had been more careful, none of this would have transpired. In order to reassure her, Lucas stated that he had previously made a promise to Marie, which was that no innocent people would be killed or injured. He referred to the possibility that it was the will of the goddess Paudia that they had come to this location in order to safeguard her. However, he explained that they required her assistance in order to fulfill his promise to ensure that Lydia was released without incident. After a moment of relief, Lydia gave her consent to assist in any way that she could. A series of hearings concerning Marie's disappearance were held over the course of several days. It was impossible for the Chamberlain, who was present when she fled, to avoid taking responsibility for herself. Because the testimony of Emma and Lydia was in conflict with one another, all of the suspects were brought together in one location in front of the king today, so that Klaas could personally hear them and make a decision. During the beginning of the hearing, Klaas addressed Lydia, who was working as a kitchen maid. He inquired as to whether or not she had witnessed the holy creature. At first, Lydia did not supply a response. Due to the fact that Lydia was unable to provide an answer, Emma yelled out, accusing Lydia of being the one who had abducted the sacred creature. Again, Klaas inquired of Lydia whether or not she had witnessed the sacred creature. Finally, Lydia made her voice heard, stating that the last time she saw Marie was when Lady Emma was accompanying her on a stroll. Klaas pondered whether or not this indicated that Lydia had previously encountered Marie. It was confirmed by Lydia, who stated that she had seen her for the first time a few days ago, during the night in the kitchen. In a state of surprise, Klaus brought up the fact that it was forbidden for children to wander around the palace at night and inquired as to why she was there at that particular time. Lydia stated that she was present in order to provide His Majesty with milk wine, as she had been instructed to do so by the chamberlain. Upon hearing this, both the chamberlain and Emma were taken aback, but Marie, who was observing, was under the impression that Emma was already aware of it. While Lydia was in the process of making the milk wine, she continued by stating that the sacred creature had been watching her. Marie responded with a nod in response to Klaus's inquiry as to whether or not that was accurate. Klaus interrupted the chamberlain as he was attempting to explain himself. He told him that he wasn't asking him anything and asked him why he was reacting so strongly. Was he feeling guilty about something? The chamberlain, who was becoming increasingly distraught, asserted that the maid was lying. He argued that the sacred creature was always with His Majesty, so it was inconceivable that she would be in such a remote location by herself. An additional attempt was made by Emma to defend the chamberlain by stating that Lydia must have deceived Marie in some way. Thereafter, the chamberlain pleaded with Klaus to believe him, bringing to his attention the fact that he had faithfully served him for a number of years. Marie's anger caused her to wonder how they could have the audacity to lie. At this rate, she was concerned that Lydia would be the one to take the blame, and she was curious about where Lucas was. Lydia attempted to provide an explanation for her actions, stating that she was simply carrying out the chamberlain's instructions. At that precise moment, Lucas appeared with a chef. Lucas and the chef made their way into the courtroom, where Lucas apologized to His Majesty for being late and excused himself from the situation. Inquiring about the cause of the commotion, Klaus questioned Lucas. Reiterating his apology, Lucas stated that he was present in order to disclose the truth about the situation. After that, he inquired of Klaus whether he recalled the time when he had informed him about the illegitimate child of the late emperor. The former emperor had another bloodline besides Klaus, a royal illegitimate child. Following Klaus's victory in the war and subsequent ascension to the throne, rumors began to circulate that the illegitimate child had barely survived and was banished. As for the illegitimate child, why is he or she involved in this situation? Klaus inquired of Lucas whether or not that was connected to the hearing that was taking place. The response issued by Lucas was, "Yes, Your Majesty, it is a critical point." After that, Klaus recalled that it was said that an illegitimate child appeared in the corner of Vich State at that time. As a result, they increased their security both inside and outside of the palace, just in case. It was stated by Lucas that he had given the head chef the instruction to pay special attention to the food that was served to His Majesty. It was confirmed by the head chef, who stated that she had received the order from the Prime Minister and had checked everything in great detail. With that being said, she started getting reports that poison was discovered in the milk wine that was being served as dessert. Despite the fact that they were able to prevent any attempt on His Majesty's life by taking precautions, Lucas stated that they were unable to identify the source of the poison or the person who was responsible for it. Then Lucas disclosed that Marie had been of assistance to him. While running toward Klaus, Marie accidentally knocked over the milk wine, and Lucas inquired with the king about whether or not he remembered the incident. As a result of a prophecy from the goddess Padia, Marie was able to anticipate the poison and make an effort to save him. Klaus inquired of Marie whether or not the statements made by the Prime Minister were accurate, and Marie responded by raising her paw in acknowledgement. Lucas continued by stating that Marie had come across this child in the makeshift kitchen where they were preparing poisoned milk wine. She had repeatedly interfered with the process, and her efforts eventually resulted in the fruit being brought to Lucas. Afterwards, Lucas removed the fruit from its container and presented it to Klaus, informing him that it was the fruit that contained the poison. The events that had transpired were now cleared to Klaus. Lucas explained that they monitored the chamberlain and discovered an interesting fact based on the testimony of the child. The chamberlain, Baron Joshua Pensler, was Emma's uncle, according to Lucas. In addition, they discovered that the Pensler family had been receiving deliveries of medicinal herbs that were not available on the market, but that these deliveries had suddenly stopped. As Lucas pointed out, this occurred at the exact same time that Emma was appointed to the position of caretaker for Marie. The chamberlain asked Klaus to listen to him out, but Klaus responded by remarking that it was peculiar that someone who was so reserved would suddenly become eager to show himself. According to Lucas, their intentions were very clear. They were making a warm and fuzzy relationship with the illegitimate royal child. It was then revealed by Lucas that just as he was about to uncover the truth, it turned out that the tutor who was educating the illegitimate child of the former emperor was also a distant noble from the Pensler family. It was at this precise moment that the guards brought in Klaus's illegitimate half-sibling, who was sobbing and pleading with the Chamberlain to save him. Immediately, Klaus demanded that the Chamberlain make a statement. As an alternative to the Chamberlain, Emma took the initiative to speak, asserting that the issues concerning the Penciller family had no bearing on her because she had only ever loved and served His Majesty with all of her heart. On the other hand, Klaus responded that it was up to him to decide whether or not it was related, and he did not remember granting the lady permission to engage in conversation. Next, Klaus inquired of the Chamberlain as to the reason for his silence, given that he had been so outspoken in the past. It was in a low voice that the Chamberlain murmured that he should never have taken the side of these idiots. He admitted that he had supported the child who was not legitimate, and that he had attempted to poison His Majesty because he could not bear to watch a sinner who had blood on his hands rule any longer. After that, the Chamberlain went on a rant about how the former emperor and their family had brought Kayla back to life, and he questioned how Klaus had the audacity to oppress them without showing any indication of gratitude. In addition to this, he made the observation that the illegitimate child was significantly more intelligent and decisive than the former emperor, and that it would be an excessive amount of a waste to leave him in his current state. While this was going on, Marie was thinking about how reprehensible the Chamberlain was. Afterwards, the Chamberlain announced that he intended to elevate the child who was not legitimate to the position of king for the sake of his nation. After interrupting, Lucas stated that there was no longer any need to listen to what was being said, and he then gave the order for the guards to remove the Chamberlain. Nevertheless, the Chamberlain shared with Klaus that he believed he would be willing to give up so easily. After that, he used a small knife to cut the ropes that were tied around his hands, and then he declared that he would drag Klaus to hell with him along with him. He then rushed to attack Klaus. On the other hand, Marie grabbed him by the leg and bit him, adamant that she would not allow him to touch even a single hair on Klaus's head. Following that, Klaus drew his sword and gave the Chamberlain a blow to the head. Following the conclusion of the hearing, he made the following announcement. The child was found to be innocent and should be released. However, the Penciller family and any other families which were associated with the illegitimate child would be arrested. Because they had the audacity to cause harm to the son of Kayla, they are required to pay with their lives. As the night progressed, Klaus remained in his room by himself. Marie was concerned about his well-being. Afterwards, Klaus expressed his regret to Marie for his inability to comprehend her genuine intentions, for being unable to see through his feelings, and for displaying a pitiful side toward her. It was his admission that he had the impression that he was being punished. Despite the fact that it was an illegitimate child, Marie's family was still his family, and he had been betrayed by those he trusted. Marie thought to herself that it was obvious that he was not okay. Marie made an effort to reassure Klaus that it was not his fault and that the individuals in question represented nothing but evil. When Klaus observed her efforts, he inquired of Marie whether or not she was attempting to console him. Then he gave her a hug and assured her that he would continue to look out for her from this point forward. A few days later, Marie is taking a walk with Klaus, Lucas, and Lydia, and she is quite happy. Marie is under the impression that peace has at long last been restored. Since that day, Klaus has apprehended every single person who was suspected of being involved in the execution of the coup. He questioned them and obtained confessions from the Chamberlain, Emma, and other nobles involved, including the royal illegitimate child. He also obtained confessions from the royal illegitimate child. Following the conclusion of that incident, Lydia was presented with a unique reward. She was given the responsibility of caring for Marie. All of the individuals were put to death. Lydia was the reason Marie was able to return home safely, according to Klaus, who also mentioned that he had heard from the Prime Minister about the oppressive behavior of the previous caretaker. From this point forward, he requested that Lydia take excellent care of Marie. In regard to Marie, it would be most appropriate to call Tobia back. Tobia, on the other hand, had been excommunicated from the temple for staying at the palace, and he had been living in a nearby village with nowhere to go. Lucas informed him of this information. It brought joy to Marie's heart to consider the possibility that Tobia would return. In his observation, Klaus pointed out that it would be challenging for Lydia to take care of Marie by herself. Mary vowed to observe proper conduct and pay attention to him in the hopes that he would be able to bring Tobia back. Within a short period of time, Tobia came back, and Klaus instructed him to take care of Marie and Lydia from this point forward. Lucas, on the other hand, reminded Klaus that it was an appropriate time to get ready. In light of the fact that they were running out of time, Klaus requested that Marie accompany him. Marie was completely clueless about their destination, but Klaus assured her that she would find out. At a later time, Klaus was present at a magnificent ball. However, Marie did not appear to be very pleased about the event. She believed that Klaus ought to have informed her about this event in advance, and the amount of gifts that were given to her was overwhelming. While speaking to Marie, Klaus mentioned that it appeared that everyone was impressed by the divine nature of the sacred creature. While Marie was thinking to herself, she realized that she did not possess any divine blessings or anything remotely similar. She, too, had not anticipated that Klaus would present her with a present. However, he had presented her with a necklace that would serve as evidence that she was his. Exactly at that moment, Lucas arrived in search of Marie. Pierre asked Marie if she was having a good time at the banquet, and if she was taken aback by the suddenness of everything that was happening. The thought that was going through Marie's head was, of course I was surprised to be suddenly dressed up and brought to a crowded place. That was something that Lucas acknowledged as being understandable, and he also mentioned that His Majesty was eager to formally introduce her and express his appreciation for her contribution. Despite the fact that Lucas expressed his concern when Klaus mentioned the possibility of making a necklace for Marie using the royal ruby, His Majesty was able to locate the ideal necklace for her. Marie, on the other hand, believed that this was nothing more than an overwhelming gift. Marie was instructed by Lucas to maintain her excellent health and to continue guarding His Majesty. Since her arrival, His Majesty had undergone significant transformations. He appeared to have become more stable, and everyone had the impression that he had become more gentle. Following that, Klaus arrived in search of Marie. While Lucas was telling Marie that it appeared as though Klaus was looking for her, he suggested that she go ahead inside and that he would follow shortly after. After Marie entered the building, Klaus inquired about the region in which she had been wandering around. It was his opinion that she must be getting used to the idea of escaping. Because Marie believed that he had abandoned her first, she became enraged. During this time, Lucas pulled out a delicate bracelet and was under the impression that Marie had taken the spotlight away from him. During the later hours of that night, Marie was sleeping when she had the sensation that someone was touching her. To her surprise, a stunning woman was standing in front of her when she opened her eyes. It was a mystery to Marie who she was and how she had arrived there. The woman claimed that she was Pavia, the goddess of the sea. Marie was taken aback when she realized that the lady was actually capable of comprehending what she was saying. Due to the fact that Marie had been granted her blessing, the goddess stated that it was natural for her to comprehend her. Marie was then informed by the goddess that she was a child with a soul that originated from another world, and that she would face additional challenges in the future. Marie was perplexed by her statement, as she believed that the fact that she was unable to transform into a human was already a challenging situation. Exactly at that moment, Marie was transformed into a human being. The goddess had just informed her that she would be sharing her abilities with her in order to assist her in overcoming these challenges. Marie is surprised and thinks about what is happening. Klaus wakes up from his sleep by the sound of voices as he inquires of Marie what she is doing over there. After taking a look at her, Klaus concludes that she is nothing more than a typical cat, and he instructs her to return to her sleep. It is during this time that Marie is attempting to re-establish a connection with the goddess. She is inquiring as to whether or not she has left yet, as she is in desperate need of that power in order to transform back into a human. After a month has passed, Klaus is currently traveling with Marie by Hazel Lake. The guard is informed by him that they will be present for a period of time. Marie is met with the sight of a stunning young lady staring back at her when she looks at her reflection in the water of the lake. Even though she wants to show it to other people, it appears that no one else can see it besides her. This has been the case ever since that day, and she wants to show it to other people. She believes that it must be because of the power that the goddess bestowed upon her, but she is still unable to comprehend what those words actually mean. In the moment that Klaus observes Marie gazing intently at the water, he inquires as to what she is doing and cautions her that she might end up falling into the water. The royal veterinarians had been contacted by Klaus not too long ago, and they determined that Marie is suffering from depression. In a state of surprise, Klaus inquired about the possibility of depression in an animal. It was explained by the physician that animals, like people, are capable of feeling emotions and that they are able to empathize with and comfort human feelings. In his conversation with Klaus, he explained that Marie, the revered spirit, has always been by his side, and as a result, she has been more affected. The physician suggested that it might be beneficial for Marie and Klaus to engage in activities that they both enjoy doing together. This is the reason why Klaus made the decision to accompany Marie to this lake. It was suggested by Klaus that it would be enjoyable to go for walks like this on other occasions. After that, Klaus mentioned that he has been having a lot of dreams recently, and that in these dreams he keeps seeing a particular woman. Initially, he was under the impression that it was nothing more than a dream. The second time, he questioned whether or not he was under some kind of spell. However, beginning with the third time, he found that he was unconsciously looking forward to it. According to Klaus, the woman in his dreams has a hair color that is reminiscent of Marie's fur in some particular way. Given the degree of similarity between the two, he stated that if she were human, she might have the appearance of the woman he saw in his dreams. As soon as Marie hears this, she begins to cry. While attempting to console her, Klaus tells her that her fur is the most beautiful thing in the world. Marie is asked how she would feel about going hunting with him, whether it be for wild boars or eagles, because he is capable of catching all of them for her. When Marie thinks about the woman who appears in his dreams, she becomes enraged. Klaus had previously stated that he had a strong aversion to women, but Marie eventually finds her composure. Klaus makes the observation that she is very skilled at providing solace to other people and admits that at this point, he is wishing Marie were human, at the very least so that they could communicate with one another. Despite the fact that everyone is feeling down recently, he tells Marie not to cry and assures her that he will provide her with anything he can. Marie believes that Klaus has not committed any wrongdoing, and she is perplexed as to why he is treating her with such kindness. It's an interesting fact that all it takes is one word from Klaus to put her at ease. After that, Klaus conveys to Marie the message that they ought to return to the castle. During this time, Marie is contemplating the fact that she must remember to express her gratitude to him once she regains her human form. Marie is asked by Klaus how she would feel about a special feast that will take place tonight. As soon as they arrive at the castle, Klaus notices a carriage and guards carrying out a box. Klaus is perplexed as to what is taking place, and then he notices that the Prime Minister is carrying enormous wooden boxes. Lucas is questioned by Klaus about whether or not today is the appropriate day. In his response, Lucas inquires about Klaus's whereabouts and inquires as to whether or not he has forgotten the schedule that they had provided. He is curious about where Klaus has been wandering. Klaus extends his apologies. Lucas brings to Klaus' attention the fact that he had previously informed him that the envoy from the Elves Empire was going to arrive today. Marie is under the impression that she is familiar with this empire already, and she recalls a conversation that took place between the princess and Emma. As part of the dowry that she is preparing for His Majesty, the princess of the Elves Empire is accumulating a substantial quantity of gold coins and jewelry, as was mentioned. Klaus, on the other hand, is of the opinion that they were not exactly on terms regarding gift-giving. While this is going on, the envoy takes notice of Marie and explains that she must be the sacred creature that the temple is offering. The envoy extends a greeting to Klaus, but Klaus, who is extremely irritated, instructs them to remove those unfavorable faces from his view. Lucas makes an effort to salvage the situation by informing the envoy that they have traveled a considerable distance and expressing gratitude for their accomplishments. As far as Lucas is concerned, they are able to perceive the profound affection that Princess Gabrielle has for Klaus. Klaus is given the assurance that each of these presents is of the highest possible quality by the envoy, who explains that their princess personally chose each of these presents. In addition to this, the envoy mentions that the princess has written a unique letter to Klaus, which bears her lipstick mark, and she has requested that Klaus respond to this letter. Lucas takes the letter and says he will prepare an answer. Lucas is urged by the envoy to ensure that he provides a response this time. Marie is then brought to the attention of the envoy, who remarks that she is even more diminutive and adorable than the rumors had suggested. The question that Klaus poses is, what speculations are you referring to? The envoy explains that there is a widely held belief that Marie possesses the miraculous ability to recognize those who have betrayed Keela and the bravery to personally punish those individuals. Marie is thinking to herself that she has never done anything even remotely similar to what he is saying. But he continues by saying that seeing her in person is like being in a dream. When the envoy inquires about the possibility of paying respects to the sacred creature, Klaus responds that he has been standing for a considerable amount of time and is now exhausted. Lucas expresses his regret and explains that Klaus appears to be exhausted as a result of his lengthy excursion. Having acknowledged this, the envoy expresses regret that the Elves Empire does not possess such a rare being and states that it is the envoy's fault that they did not show consideration for the situation. After some time has passed, Lucas is attempting to compose a response to the princess, but after a number of unsuccessful attempts, he begins to question the reason that Klaus's love letter has been assigned to him to ghostwrite. Klaus, who is seated next to him, makes the observation that he did not make any promise to respond. Rather, it was Lucas who did. Martin asks Marie if she, too, is experiencing feelings of curiosity. Mary examines the letter that was written by the princess, which had the following question written on it: how can a few lines convey the fullness of a woman's heart? The most heartbreaking experience of this life is having to confront the boarder while also being at odds with His Majesty. Please take into consideration the gifts that have been sent as the tiniest piece of this heart, which is filled with a desire to be with His Majesty. A comment from Klaus: is it possible that the Emperor and the princes are just sitting there doing nothing while the princess is making such a fuss? The response that Lucas gives is that the first princess is said to be ill, and the third prince is said to be unable to have sexual relations. They might not be able to stop her because of this. Marie reflects to herself that despite the fact that she is the princess of an empire as powerful as Kila, being proactive is one thing. However, the fact that she comes from a nation that is hostile to her makes it impossible for this to be successful. After that, Lucas tells Klaus that the woman's affection does not appear to be genuine, but she continues to pursue this because she has a valid reason for doing so. He inquires of Klaus as to the reason why the swift arrival of an empress is not being considered instead. Suddenly, a guard shows up to inform them that the delegation from the L's Empire has put in a request for an audience. The conversation ends with Klaus leaving the room after he has asked Lucas to finish the letter while he is away. During the carriage ride, the Argyll noted that everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. When met with silence, he turned to Michaela, asking if she was still feeling down. She replied Klaus gave a short but heartfelt response in the letter. Ironically, His Majesty had responded earlier with just "he is all right" written in large letters at the center of the page. Trying to lift her mood, Argyll pointed out that at least His Majesty was fine, and reassured her that Lady Schmidt's situation wasn't her fault. He added that if she remained gloomy, His Majesty would worry. The carriage stops, and with the man's help, Michaela gets off. His Majesty stands waiting to receive her, accompanied by Marie. Michaela crouches down to greet Marie, who eagerly leaps into her arms, completely ignoring Klaus. As they exchange warm greetings, Klaus dryly notes that it seems no one has noticed his arrival. She smiles and remarks he seems to be embracing his role as Marie's guardian. Flustered, he looks away and mutters he has to stay close. He never knows what mischief this little one might cause. Marie wants to speak against this injustice. When has she ever caused trouble? Michaela points out this troublemaker saved the son of Kila, and she heard the whole story from the Prime Minister. Worry clouds her face as she looks down at Marie and admits she must have been very scared too. She is very grateful to her for protecting His Majesty and also apologizes about Emma. Marie wants to object. She should not be the one apologizing. She then turns to her brother and apologizes to him too, but he dismisses her apology and just tells her to hide inside. Argyll takes a step forward to remind her, did not he say His Majesty seems all right? She relaxes and agrees indeed he does. The banquet celebrating Marie's first birthday, which had been prepared all week, had begun. She received endless congratulations from many people, and she was so happy that she lost track of time. Later, Michaela looks at Marie with worry in her eyes because she looks very tired, and it is understandable she hasn't slept since morning. Klaus appears and announces he will take her. Picking up the sleepy Marie in his arms, he announces to conclude the banquet here. Gently laying Mary in bed, he whispers, "Sleep, little one." Afterward, he leaves to wash up. Mary's face crumples as she slips into a nightmare. In her dream, Kela burns before her eyes, and Klaus stands there, sword in hand, fighting while covered in blood. Yet what troubles her most is how badly injured he seems. Behind him, a massive fireball comes rushing toward him. Mary screams no, and bolts upright, gasping for breath. However, she is hit with a huge shock. She has suddenly transformed into a human. She recalls how she hadn't been able to transform since that time. Still, her mind lingers on the strange dream, wondering what it meant. Her head snaps to the side as she realizes something. There Klaus stands, staring in shock. She wants to tell him she's become human, but his eyes narrow sharply when they land on the cat's necklace in her hand. Before she can speak, he draws his sword. With a fierce expression, he demands to know what she did to the spirit beast, his other hand gripping her neck tightly. Her face contorts in pain as she tries to tell him it's her. However, Klaus looks like a man pushed to the brink. He states, his voice thick with anger, that she must have a lot of nerve. Not only did she sneak into the imperial bedchamber, but she also dared to address the emperor by name. With a violent jerk, he throws her to the floor and explodes, demanding to know what she has done to the spirit beast and demands to know where she has hidden it. Her whole body trembles on the floor, wrapped only in a bed sheet. She tries to speak, but her voice is barely audible. pointing his sword at her, he warns her to return it immediately unless she wishes to lose her head. In a moment of panic, she bursts out, claiming she's Marie, the spirit beast cat. He freezes, but then in a cold whisper, he says she must have truly lost her mind. The door swings open, and Argal and Michaela enter, both looking worried. Michaela asks His Majesty what has happened. He replies that the spirit beast has disappeared, and it must be this woman's doing. Marie grabs her hand and calls her name, pleading with her to explain to Klaus that she is, indeed, Marie. Before she can finish, a sharp slap sends her sideways, leaving her shocked. The princess demands to know how she dared utter the royal name so carelessly, and worse, dared to lie. The guards rush forward as His Majesty orders them to take the woman to the dungeon and strictly commands they deny her even a drop of water. He also instructs them to summon the guards with urgency, insisting they must find the spirit beast immediately. Even as she is dragged away, she tries to speak, begging him to listen. She is the cat. But he ignores her, rubbing his temples and sighing, convinced he should have never left her. Both his sister and Argal attempt to calm him, insisting it's not his fault. She screams as the guards drag her away, barely covered by the bed sheet. Klaus orders the Prime Minister and Lucas be summoned as well. With a shove, they throw her into the prison's rough floor. They warn her to tell the truth quickly, as her life now depends on the fate of the spirit beast. She glares at them, but they mutter that she will be executed anyway for entering His Majesty's room in such a state. After they leave, she gets the chance to question herself. How did she even transform into a human? But then she reminds herself that is not what is important right now. She needs to prove that she is the divine being somehow. Klaus's images flash through her mind as she wonders what she should say to make him believe her. Panic grips her heart as she considers the possibility of him not believing her, even if she tells him. She recalls how earlier they treated her like she was crazy. She cannot help but think this time she might lose her head on the spot. Falling to her knees, she curls into herself, her voice echoing through the silent cell. A desperate plea for him to recognize her, to know it's her. Marie, she stills when a voice reaches her ears. The voice advises she must first know herself. Only then can those around her recognize the true her. She asks who is there. The man hidden in cloak murmurs, it seems she still doesn't know anything. She shoots to her feet and demands what does he mean by that. She wants to know if the man knows something. What is all this commotion about? Lucas' voice cuts through the tension. A sense of relief washes over her at the sight of him. She states thank goodness he came. She continues asking him to please explain things to Klaus, but is cut off by his mocking laugh. Looking confused, she whispers his name. Suddenly, he grabs her wrist in a tight hold, hurting her. He declares he has never seen someone like her before, so how does she even know him? His eyes harden as he states, and to carelessly speak the name of the son of Kella. He threatens her if she wants her tongue cut out. A sharp push sends her stumbling, but she regains her balance just in time. Lucas states the knights had warned him she was mad, and it seems to be true. A knight appears next to Luca, and he asks if there is still no news about finding the divine being. They decide they have no choice. They will have to resort to torment to find out what she did with the divine being. Suddenly, she whispers that the day she came to the palace. Does he remember how he chose the lunch menu using rune divination? She adds he said the main dish would be roasted bull's leg. He flinches in shock. She continues, and when the former chamberlain tried to poison himself, she brought the berry pouch. She reminds him he also made a vow back then that no one would be harmed. But to her dismay, he still does not believe her and states it seems like she has appeared more prepared than he expected. He wants to know who is behind this, the temple, the Elso Empire. He points out everything that she mentioned. The divine being's caretakers are also well aware of it. She lashes out at him that they do not know everything. He states in a calm voice that the fact she is so agitated makes her even more suspicious. Aid then orders the knights to bring in the divine's being caretakers. The caretakers come asking if he called for them, and they are in the midst of searching for the divine being. He asks them if they have ever seen this woman before. They both reply in union that they have not. He lashes out at them that this woman is aware of every detail about the divine being's action, and if they both are daring to lie to him. Marie reminds him she told him they have nothing to do with this. Lydia, who looks scared, murmurs they truly do not know. She swears by the goddess. However, Luca is now beyond reason. He asks then how does she know even about the war. He orders the knights to confine both of them until they are proven innocent and make sure they don't come into contact with anyone else. She reminds him those two took care of her more devotedly than anyone else in this castle, and he is breaking a promise that he made to protect her. He counters if she is truly just a mad woman and she has no one behind her. She states if there's anyone behind her, it will be the goddess. How upset she must be to see her beautiful divine being imprisoned overnight. He slams his fist against the cell in frustration, warning her to mind her words. Once the divine being is located, her life will be forfeit. She challenges him to then just kill her. He has no intention of listening to her anyway. However, she lets him know if he kills her, then the divine being he's searching for will disappear forever too. He stills, but once he finds his words he asks her what does she mean by that. She did not harm the divine being, did she? And demands her to tell him where the divine being is right this instant. Tears of helplessness start to stream down her face as she asks why even him is unable to recognize her. She falls to her knees, sobbing. She wants to know if it was going to be like this, why did he treat her so kindly? And why requested her to stay by His Majesty's side? And most importantly, why did he say it did not matter what form she took? Sobbing, she calls him a liar. He stands there in shock because her crying reminds him of the cat. He murmurs almost to himself, how could he believe that a cat turned into a human? Out of the blue, she asks him if he remembers the day she brought him berries, or how he told her to place her hand on his if whatever he asked was the truth. She reveals to him she was so frustrated, but she was really grateful when he suggested a way for them to communicate. A hopeful smile lights her face as she points to herself and tells him this is something only the two of them know. She also informs him that Klaus sleeps with his chest fully exposed while holding her clothes. Then she begins to mention how many moles he has on his body. With a raise of his hand, he tells her to stop. He sighs and decides to bring His Majesty at once, believing he should deal with this mess personally. As he leaves, she sighs, thinking she has just passed one hurdle. She wishes that Klaus would believe her, but then she transforms back into the cat, wondering why it had to happen at this moment. Frustrated, she wonders if the circumstances are deliberately provoking her. But now she realizes she can escape. Just like that, she slips out of the cell. Stopping by the next cell, the person inside falls to his knees and says it is an honor to meet her. She questions whether this is the same voice that spoke to her earlier. Curious if he knows anything about her current situation, she waves her claw to get his attention. Realizing her gesture, he says she must have many questions, but he cannot answer them right now. He assures her that in due time, everything will become clear. She snarls, demanding to know when exactly this due time will be. He reveals that when she meets Goddess Favia again, all truths will be revealed. He then suggests it's time for her to return and wishes her luck. She rushes out. On her way, His Majesty and Lucas approach. His Majesty asks Lucas why he must personally interrogate a mad woman. Lucas replies, because there are unresolved matters. His Majesty presses for details, but before Lucas can continue, they find Marie sitting there with a frown. His Majesty quickly unlocks the cell and rushes in, exclaiming that she's safe. Kneeling beside her, he mutters a relieved thank goodness and gently asks her to come to him. But as memories of everything he did to her while she was human flood her mind, she panics and scratches him, thinking she doesn't want to hurt him. Alarmed, Lucas, with a note of worry in his voice, asks His Majesty if he's all right. Meanwhile, Mary takes a defensive stance and screeches, warning him not to come any closer. Lucas, completely perplexed, asks her what she's doing in front of His Majesty. However, Klaus reassures Lucas, telling him to stand down. Raising his hands in surrender toward Marie, Klaus tries to assure her that everything is all right. Suddenly, he scoots her up in his arms, telling her she's safe with him. But she fights back, scratching at him wherever she can reach. Confused, he asks what's wrong, if something is bothering her. Then he notices blood on his hand. He immediately calls for the guard to fetch a doctor, realizing the spirit beast is injured. Meanwhile, Lucas stands in the cell, staring down at the discarded bed sheet, confusion clouding his expression. When the doctor arrives, he examines the wound on Marie's neck and reassures them that, fortunately, it isn't deep and will heal soon, so there's no need for His Majesty to worry. Klaus listens, then orders the doctor to leave. Michaela, also concerned, wonders aloud how much pain and fear the young girl must have endured. She declares that the culprit must be executed. Klaus sighs, explaining that he had wanted to do the same, but the culprit has disappeared. His sister exclaims, "What? She escaped from the prison?" However, Klaus believes even if she did, she would not be able to breach the security of the palace. His sister agrees she will definitely be caught. His Majesty agrees with her because she must pay for trying to harm the spirit beast. However, she then points out she does not see the spirit beast's caretakers around. Lucas tells them there were some suspicious aspects, so he ordered them to be confined. However, His Majesty clarifies one thing: the spirit beast's safety is the priority, so he should release them and can interrogate them later after the culprit is caught. Marie, on the other hand, has completely tuned out everyone and is lost in her thoughts. Luca exclaims at least they found Marie, so that is one less worry, and points out His Majesty must be tired too, so he should rest. Marie realizes they are leaving her alone here, and jumps off Klaus's lap. Michaela smiles at Mary and tells her to rest safely here tonight. Lucas bows in front of Klaus and informs he has some things to look into, so he will be leaving now. While Marie cries, telling them to let her out, His Majesty rises with a deep sigh, gently scolding her as he reminds her that the doctor said she needs to rest now that her wound is treated. But Mary bolts out of the room. He calls after her, worry and confusion etched on his face. Chasing after her, he crouches down, asking if she's angry with him for this. Apologizing, he promises it won't happen again and pleads with her for another chance. Marie, however, wonders what kind of a chance. A second chance to strike her down after he missed the first? She wishes to tell him that she's afraid of the uncertainty, of never knowing when she will become human again. The thought of having to endure the cold stares that comes with it haunts her. But more than anything, she is terrified that he might drive a sword into her without hesitation when she's human again. After that day, she distanced herself from Klaus. She even refused to sleep together with him. She rejected everything about Klaus. Because of that, everyone started being conscious around her. Lucas informs His Majesty. As per his orders, they are investigating up to the border regions to find the mad woman. Additionally, they also released a prisoner from the underground prison as part of the Great Spirit's birthday special pardon. Lucas wonders about that man because he's the one who can give her all the answers, but she doesn't know where he went. He then tells His Majesty he has got to say something. His Majesty listens, but when he tries to ask for a leaf, he quickly denies it. Lucas whines. Klaus puts a condition for him to finish properly resolving the Great Spirit's kidnapping case first, then he will consider it. He then asks, with the Great Spirit so uneasy, isn't he concerned? Lucas' eyes involuntarily shift to her, but he quickly looks away. He requests again to grant him even a brief moment to collect his thoughts. On the other hand, Mary is surprised because he just avoided her gaze. Then he finally mutters, then he should go to Vice. He reminds His Majesty he has not had the chance to visit since entrusting Vice to Viscount Bauer, but he is sure he will be very pleased if the Emperor's representative attends the wedding. Mary caretakers talk about how the scenery there is beautiful and the air is clear, believing the Great Spirit will surely enjoy it as well. This catches His Majesty's attention. Out of the blue, he calls for Lucas and announces that he will assign attendants, guards, and royal physicians, instructing Lucas to take the Great Spirit with him. Marie looks baffled, as does Lucas. Lucas, looking extremely hesitant, points out cats are domestic animals. They cannot go on trips. However, His Majesty seems unbothered and points out the Great Spirit isn't like other cats. She's even ridden horses with him before. Marie wonders what is he talking about all of a sudden. Klaus crouches down in front of her and tells her Vice should be enjoying the warmth of spring by now. He suggests to her how about getting some fresh air and visiting with the Prime Minister. It doesn't take more than a moment for her to realize he is being considerate and he's giving her some time away because he knows she's afraid of him. She wonders if she should go. She finally gives him a slow nod. Klaus looks at Lucas and tells her now can he see she's agreeing to go. However, Lucas doesn't seem too thrilled about the idea, but he relents and says he'll follow the command. 3 days later at the entrance of Herrera Palace, His Majesty addresses the spirit beast caretaker, reminding them to always remember that they have been entrusted with a critical mission. They assure him they will take the utmost care of the Great Spirit. He then turns his attention to the spirit beast and lets her know this is an order from the Emperor, that she should have the same bright expression on her face as before when she returns. As they make their way, they come to an abrupt halt upon hearing Lydia's panicked voice. A concerned Lucas rushes to the carriage and knocks on the window, asking urgently what the matter is. Lydia replies that the Great Spirit seems to be experiencing motion sickness. Recognizing the need for a break, Lucas instructs his men to look for Saxon Castle nearby and to send word to the Lord, requesting a place to rest for a while. The Lord greets them personally, remarking that it has been quite some time since their last visit. Lucas expresses his gratitude for the Lord's willingness to accommodate their sudden request. The Lord assures him it is no trouble at all, and adds that he is glad to see them after such a long time. Curious, Luca inquires about the state of Lucas's father's health. The Lord's expression turns somber as he replies that his father's chronic neuralgia has worsened, and now he is also suffering from an unknown skin condition. Not wanting to miss an opportunity to help, Lucas offers they have a doctor with them. How about letting him examine his father? The Lord is profoundly grateful for this offer, joyful at the prospect of having the royal physician take a look at his father. Just then, they are interrupted by Marie's persistent meow, 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 as she expresses her desire to join them and convey her thanks in person. The Lord murmurs something about a white cat and questions Lucas if she could be the rumored Great Spirit. He shares that her mystical presence is well known, and his father has been quite curious about her. Lucas nods, stating that since the Great Spirit seems eager to show her gratitude, she can accompany them to see his father. Before entering, the Lord informs his father that the Prime Minister and the Great Spirit have arrived. Upon entering, they find a sick man lying on the bed. The Lord gently requests his father to try to sit up for a moment. Marie is taken aback to see him in that condition, recalling that familiar sickness. When she was human, her grandfather succumbed to the same illness. She quickly realizes the nature of his sickness, shingles. The man apologizes for greeting them in such a humble state, but Lucas assures him they are very grateful for the warm welcome, especially on such short notice. With that, he extends his hand for a handshake. Just as the man prepares to reciprocate, Marie, watching intently, becomes suddenly alert, desperately trying to prevent Lucas from touching him. She wriggles in his arms, panicking at the thought that this is a contagious disease and urging Lucas to avoid contact. Lucas, taken aback, asks in shock, "What kind of rudeness is this?" He then quickly apologizes on her behalf, explaining that it seems the Great Spirit is quite worn out from the long journey, and he will take her to rest. They depart, with Marie gazing at the man from Lucas's shoulder, contemplating what she can do in this unsettling situation. On their way back to their chamber, Lucas asks Marie why did she act like that, and wants to know if she did not like the Count. She wants to clarify that's not it, and he is not immune, so he would catch the disease too. She remembers even in modern times, there was no perfect cure for the chickenpox virus, and neuralgia is just the beginning. After this, complications will follow, and eventually death will come, just like what happened to her grandfather. She groans in frustration, unable to find out how she's supposed to explain this to all of them. A knock on the door catches Lucas' attention. When opening the door, he's greeted by a child who introduces himself as Levi Saxon. Lucas recognizes him, he is Emmett's son, and asks him what brings him here. The child responds that he heard his father's dear friend, the greatest scholar in Keela, has arrived at the castle, and he came to pay his respects. Lucas smiles warmly and invites him inside. Excited by the sight of the spiritual cat, Levi eagerly asks about it. Luca then asks if he would like to greet it. But the child hesitates, pointing out it is a precious royal spiritual beast. He seems scared as he informs that his grandfather told him that the king of Keela is incredibly fearsome. Lucas then decides to ask Marie if she is alright with Levi greeting her. The child is momentarily taken aback that the spiritual beast understands human speech. Lucas' attention shifts to the book in the child's hand. The child explains that it's a vocabulary book he made himself because he wanted to teach his younger sibling how to read. As the book catches her eye, an idea sparks in Marie's mind. Perhaps they could use it to communicate. Without hesitation, she grabs one of the pages. The poor child, panicked, pleads with the spiritual beast, explaining that the book is very precious to him. Mary simply wants to tell him to let her borrow it for a moment, while Lucas looks on in confusion. Lucas, however, realizes all this time it seems like Marie understood everything being said, and if she has something she wants to express, maybe she's using this as a means to. Luca asks the child to lend it for just one night, assuring him it won't be damaged. When the child still hesitates, Luca promises to grant him anything in return and offers 100 sheets of paper to make more vocabulary books. However, Levi blushes slightly and murmurs, "A letter from the Prime Minister, perhaps?" Seeing Luca's confusion, he explains that he only has friends within the territory and has never received a letter from anyone before, and that is why he would love to receive a letter from the Prime Minister. Would that be possible? Luca bursts into laughter and promises him that he will send it along with 100 sheets of paper. The child thanks him and assures him to use this book as he wishes. Once the child has left, Lucas inquires from Marie what does she plan to do with the child's vocabulary book. However, she just shows him a picture of an old man and a graveyard. However, it does not take long for Luca to realize she's referring to the death of Count Saxon. However, he is confused. How could Marie know about that? Marie then brings another picture and points at it. It is a temple. He realizes what she is trying to say is the will of goddess Phobia. Luca believes he must go see Emmett. Emmett is expressing his gratitude to the doctor for his hard work during the treatment when his attention is suddenly drawn to Lucas, who looks panicked. He then asks what brings him here, pointing out how urgently he came running. Luca suggests they should move to a more private place as he has something important to discuss. He starts the conversation by asking if they are aware that the spiritual beast received a prophecy from goddess Phobia preventing His Majesty's poisoning and capturing the traitors who plotted rebellion. He acknowledges it and even states everyone in the territory was amazed by the spiritual beast's foresight. Luca then puts the cards on the table and states this is Lady's vocabulary book and the spiritual beast just selected these cards from it. He lets them know it seems to have predicted the Count's death and it would be wise to prepare in advance. Both Emmett and his wife seem taken aback by the sudden news. However, his wife, in desperation, points out, isn't there a possibility that the prophecy could be wrong? But her husband counters, someone blessed by the goddess cannot be wrong. Emmett, resigned to his fate, quietly murmurs that he will cherish the time he has left with his father. Luca expresses regret having to bring such news. However, Emmett assures it is all right as this too must be the will of goddess Phobia. Marie thinks it must be a shock for them now, but losing a family without warning is far more painful. She thinks if she had known that they would be her grandfather's last, she would have loved him even more. She just hopes they do not carry the same regrets that she does. Back in the room, Lucas drops onto the bed and sighs, exhausted. He then asks Maria why she doesn't go rest with her caretakers for a while, but she ignores him and jumps onto the bed, carrying 2 cards in her mouth. She sets them down and he looks at them, momentarily shocked, but then he looks away and sighs deeply. She thinks it was important to inform them about the Count's illness earlier, so she let it slide, but she's aware that he has been avoiding her since then. This time, she is determined to have a proper conversation. He murmurs, the woman who was imprisoned back then. It was her, wasn't it? She thinks yes, and does he finally believe her now? He lets her know after that incident he studied every book in existence, and nowhere did it say that a cat could turn into a human. However, he considered everything that has happened so far, and it was hard to deny it any longer that what the woman said back then was indeed true. She quickly dashes off and returns with another card. This one depicts a paw and a hand shaking, symbolizing their reconciliation. She beams at him. He returns her smile before asking how she was able to transform into a human. Was it because of the statue of the goddess? But then again, why is she in the form of a cat now? He also assures her if it was because they did not believe her when she was in the form of a woman, she does not need to worry anymore. They believe her now. However, he is surprised to see her drop her head in dejection. She thinks that if she could change at will, she would have done so already. Realizing, he pleads with her not to tell him she cannot control it at will. He sighs, asking if this is a serious issue. He lays on the bed, letting her know the road ahead will be tough, and the first big problem is informing His Majesty about this. He turns to Marie and asks if she has any good ideas. Maria puts all the pressure on her tiny brain to think of something, but then comes up with nothing. She doesn't need to tell him that, he can read it all over her face. She begs him for help, insisting that if anyone can fix this, it's definitely him. Lucas is all about helping people, she adds, trying to charm him. Then, in true cat fashion, she starts rubbing against him. Poor guy. He screeches, his eyes wide with panic, and leaps back, declaring, men and women are different. How can you approach me so casually? His face is as red as a tomato, and she can't help but think, what's with the sudden formality? One thing's for sure, she loves the reaction she's getting. She jumps back onto him again, ready for round 2. The next day, Maria's caretakers look worried as they observe the Prime Minister, noting how extremely tired he appears. Was his bed uncomfortable? One of them wonders aloud. When Maria tries to greet him, he panics and quickly replies, no, it's nothing. He just needs to leave. He has rested enough. After that, they were seen off by the people of Sachsen and headed toward Weiss. They also attended the wedding of Viscount Bauer, as Klaus had mentioned. To soothe their wearied bodies and minds, they stayed a few more days, leisurely enjoying the spring in Weiss. She realizes Klaus was right. It is warm and beautiful. She also cannot help but think it would have been nice if he had come along. After that, they set off on their journey back to Kela. On the way back, Luca remarks, looks like her motion sickness is completely gone now. Marie smiles, thinking about how comfortable she is with carriages now. Suddenly, the horse comes to an abrupt stop as one of the guards informs Luca that something is rushing toward them at breakneck speed. They realize it's a barber sheep and wonder why it's charging in their direction. The creature races toward them, prompting the guards to draw their swords, ready to protect both the Prime Minister and the spirit. But just before it can reach them, a gun is aimed at it, and with a single shot, one of its horns is blown off. The barber sheep lands on the ground with a thud. Luca, taken aback, wonders where that shot came from. He's astonished that someone could hit a target from such an incredible distance, especially with enough power to break one of the barbershop sheep's sturdy horns. He jolts out of his trance when he hears someone murmur, "Oh, who do they have here?" Marie, equally shocked, glances around, trying to identify the source of the voice. It's a woman holding the gun from which she fired earlier, and she casually remarks, "Fancy meeting him in a place like this," referring to him as Prime Minister Luca. Luca mutters in shock, "Princess Gabrielle?" Marie is surprised because Gabrielle is the first princess of the Elso Empire. She wonders what she's doing here. She tells Lucas she's relieved he's unharmed. However, she adds, "Isn't this quite the fateful encounter?" She smirked, stating she came out searching for the precious horn of barbarian to present to His Highness, only to end up saving the Chancellor. Marie thinks she thought she was some terrifying stalker, but she's just a bold and carefree older sister, isn't she? Gabrielle then states they must have been startled, and how about stopping by their camp to rest for a while? At last she adds, that is, if it would not be uncomfortable for them. Luca smiles, thinking if he wants to gather information about the weapon earlier, this is the only way. With that thought in mind, he accepts the invitation. When they arrive at the tents, she tells them to make themselves comfortable. Luca looks around, scanning the surroundings, but then he stops when she begins to speak. However, something has been bothering her since earlier, she says. He finishes her thought. Yes, it is indeed a mythical creature raised by the Keller royal family. She questions if it is true that it can see the future with its light green eyes and understand human speech. Replies yes, it is quite intelligent. He further adds it responds with nods to questions or communicates through word cards. The princess is surprised because she did not know an animal that can communicate with people. She then asks for permission to try to speak with the mystical creature herself. Lucas seems taken aback by her request and whips his face around to meet Marie's, asking her if she is alright with that. Marie looks tense, but thinks it wouldn't be nice to refuse the princess' request, wouldn't it? Settled at the table, Gabrielle questions who is her master. She picks up the card of a crown. Her answer is clear. She considers His Majesty to be her master. Princess remarks, truly marvelous. She then asks, and what does her master cherish the most? This time she picks up the card of a cat. She states the cat is referring to itself and bursts into laughter. Thinking bold like just the emperor, she remarks the more she sees it, the more she likes it. Suddenly her demeanor changes and she declares now the cat is added to the list of things from Kila that she desires. Lucas snatches the cat away, hiding it into his chest, and murmurs even as a joke, she should not say such things. She smiles to downplay the situation and states very well if she startled him, she apologizes. At that moment, her people come and inform her they have found a flock of barbarian sheep just beyond the southern thicket. She picks her rifle up and prepares to leave, but at the last moment she turns towards Lucas and offers him to join and declares to teach him a thing or two. Luca looks hesitant and asks is it all right to leave the mystical creature and the attendants here, but she assures him, promising she has ensured the area is heavily guarded. After telling the cat he will be back quickly so she must wait here quietly, Luca leaves. The mystical creature is surrounded by her caretakers, who are busy admiring her exquisite beauty and luxurious fur. She smiles at them, her gaze drifting to something in the distance. Suddenly, a worried Luca flashes through her mind, and a wave of surprise and tension washes over her as she wonders what she just saw. Noticing the sudden change in her demeanor, her caretakers immediately panic and rush to ask her what is wrong. Just then, something darts past them, opening with a whoosh, and a thick cloud of smoke begins to fill the room. Toby urges Lydia that they need to get the mystical creature out of here, quickly. The mystical creature realizes with growing dread that she is struggling to breathe. She must escape before it's too late. Later, as consciousness returns, she finds herself back in her human form. Confusion settles in as she thinks, what happened? Panic sets in when she realizes she has transformed back into a human. A deeper sense of dread takes hold as she frantically tries to cover herself. However, as her awareness sharpens, she notices that she is indeed wearing something. A relief washes over her, filling her with gratitude. Yet that gratitude quickly dissipates as a grim reminder surfaces. She has been kidnapped, and there is nothing to be thankful for in this situation. She wonders who had the audacity to breach the princess's camp and do something like this. She looks around in a panic, and that's when she spots Lydia. Rushing over to her, she attempts to wake her up. Lydia stirs, but then her eyes snap open and she asks her who she is. Marie thinks she only saw Lydia briefly in the dark prison. She might be even more terrified in this situation. She realizes she needs to approach her slowly. She tells her it might be hard to believe, but she is Marie, her friend, the mystical cat. Lydia looks at her as if she has lost her mind. Marie thinks, of course, it must sound like a lie. But then surprise washes over her when behind her, Lydia whispers she believes her. Her wide eyes dart to her, and she looks at her with her lips parted. She asks in a shaky voice she believes her. Why? Lydia replies there's only one person in the world with such beautiful eyes, their mystical creature.